McGraw-Hill Professional presents Million Dollar Consulting, The Professional's Guide to Growing a Practice, 5th edition. Written by Alan Weiss. Narrated by Scott R. Pollak. Introduction. In 1990, I wrote a proposal for what would have been my 4th book, entitled Confessions of a Consultant. The premise was to alert corporate executives about what was going wrong unbeknownst to them and what combination of internal and external resources was needed to become more effective. After all, I was an organization development consultant working with Fortune 1000 firms. That book idea was rejected by 15 publishers. Then, one day my agent called on my brand new car phone, hardwired to the dashboard, and said, "I'm at McGraw-Hill." I was ecstatic. He was at one of the premier publishers on the planet. "They like the book idea?" I shouted. "No, they hate it." "Jeff," I said, "do you know what this call is costing me?" "They want to know," he said calmly, "if you can write a book about how you can make 7 figures a year as a solo consultant." "I can do that in 6 minutes," I said. "I'm going to tell them 6 months," he replied. "I'll get back to you later. I'll call you at your office. This connection is awful." And there you have the beginning of what is today a global franchise that changed my life to one of helping entrepreneurs and experts to build their businesses, improve their self-worth, and live the lives to which they aspire. You are reading the 5th edition of the book and, more important to me, its 25th anniversary edition. I've written 60 books that appear in 12 languages. More books on consulting than anyone ever, and this book remains my bestseller by a wide margin. Some of you are rereading it, and some of you are joining me for the first time. I've rewritten almost all of it from scratch, meaning I haven't used past files to abridge and modify, but wrote it entirely from my head onto the screen with no notes. You will find prior material presented differently and new material never presented before. This profession has provided me, and many I've coached, with a fabulous life. You can accommodate new technologies, globalization, shifts in mores, changing demographics, and new discoveries. You can do all of that if you create and sustain a high level of self-worth. We are not selling services, not taking money. We are offering value and generating equitable compensation as a result of a huge return on investment for the buyer. I've found that the most fundamental success factor is one's mindset. As you read on, I'm hoping that I can influence your mindset to appreciate your own value and act in a manner commensurate with it. After that, it's up to you. Alan Weiss, East Greenwich, Rhode Island, June 2016. Chapter 1. What is a consultant anyway? Is it someone who comes to study a problem and remains to become a part of it? I'm sitting on a cliff overlooking the Pacific in Laguna Beach, California, where I'm holding a meeting for global consultants in my community. The hotel manager who stopped by to meet me asks, "When did you realize you would be a consultant?" The answer is the day I was hired to be one. No one I know has studied to become a consultant. Don't confuse MBA students with nascent consultants. They are simply students with advanced degrees in finance. I have 3 graduate degrees, and not one has ever helped me in my marketing or delivery in this profession. They may well enter Deloitte or McKinsey, but they do so as worker ants who are expected to carry tasks many times their own weight. They are expendable, paid X, and billed out at X times 3 to cover costs and produce profit. Come to think of it, worker ants have a more creative life. We are all consultants, or are we? The dictionary will tell you tersely that a consultant is someone who provides advice professionally. That means, as I interpret it, for money. Thus, some of us are amateur consultants and some professional. I guess the former are sort of quasi-consultants in the manner that the Federal Reserve is a quasi-governmental entity or a Mercury is a quasi-Ford. But advice is cheap. When we consider consultants in this book, we're talking about expertise. Consultants are experts, not mere advice givers. You may give me advice about skiing, which you engage in sporadically, and it may be enough to sustain me in an upright position for a few minutes at a time. But the ski instructor, who is paid for expertise, can show me how to traverse, slalom, recover from being off balance, and take a fall correctly. That expertise is better than your casual advice. So while we are surrounded by advice, especially if we have a significant other in our lives, and especially if we have children old enough to talk, we're not surrounded by expertise. We and organizations have to find it and either maintain it, employees, or situationally secure it, brief engagement by experts. This book is about solo consultants and boutique firm owners. Although prior versions of this book and my other works are often read by consultants working for large organizations, the focus here is on the solo practitioner. With that in mind, here is the definition of a consultant for our purposes. Consultant, an expert in one or more identified areas who partners with a client to improve the client's condition. Once you walk away from a successful engagement, the client's state should be better than it was when you got there, ideally in conjunction with previously determined and agreed-upon objectives. More about that later. There are two dynamics in consulting interactions. One is the importance of the issue involved, and the other is the transfer of skills to the client for continued and sustainable success. If you work on an important issue with zero transfer of skills, you're simply an independent expert. You ski, but you can't teach me to ski. Think of an expert witness in a trial who testifies about proper heart stent implants, but can neither perform the procedure nor teach it. If you transfer significant skills, but not for an important issue, then you're an interventionist. By that, I mean that you help people learn how to respond to complaints from customers, or change a tire in the body shop, or underwrite risk in an insurance policy. You've done these things yourself and can teach them, but you teach them generically, not because there is an urgent issue at the moment. The collaborator represents the real value in consulting, where you are both transferring skills and doing so as a vital issue is resolved. That's where the highest value and concomitant highest fees reside. Here are the traits of professional experts who consult. They have content knowledge, how to make glass, or process knowledge, how to make decisions, that can be transferred to their clients. They can speak conversationally and easily about their value. They never sell or pitch, but rather focus on contributing and offering value to improve the client's condition. They continually expand their expertise through the development of additional intellectual property, experiences, and experimentation. They charge based on value, never by a time unit, headcount, or boxes of materials. I realize this last trait is somewhat threatening, even today after I've been writing about this for 25 years. But if you charge by the hour, you're an amateur, and by definition in this book, not a professional. We'll cover the basis of fees in Chapter 4, though I suspect some of you immediately turn to that chapter, in which case, welcome back to the beginning. When expertise becomes so obvious and apparent that the consultant is sought out by clients, a powerful brand has been created based on the allure of one's expertise. When that happens, credibility, terms, fees, and other factors are no longer any kind of obstacle or barrier. The million-dollar metaphor. In the introduction, I talked about the origins of million-dollar consulting. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. However, as catchy as that title and notion may be, I understood from the outset that it's a metaphor. It represents the fuel you require for the lifestyle you desire. That may be $450,000, or $1.4 million, or $6 million. Wealth is discretionary time. Money is simply the means to obtain wealth. Hence, some people pursue money so rapidly that they decrease their wealth. More important, however, is the issue of the labor involved to get there. Years ago, my accountant said to me as I was beginning to become really successful, "Alan, reducing debt is as important as making money." He demonstrated the cost of carrying debt, the power of being debt-free, and so forth. As a result of his advice, except for my mortgage, which has certain advantages to maintain, and a couple of car leases, I'm completely debt-free. The analogy is that while building revenues is important, reducing labor intensity is just as important. The reason is that too many people are racing around generating money while eroding their wealth. They are making money, but losing time. Thus, the secret to million-dollar consulting as a metaphor is that you have to continually work smarter, not harder. The progression often looks like this: subcontractor, work at client request, project implementation, project oversight, retainer. At the bottom, subcontractor, you're working on someone else's product and at that person's command and discretion, very much like being someone's employee. And many of us have to start that way to earn money. Nothing embarrassing about that unless you're still doing it years later. Above that, we work at the client's request, often as a result of a request for proposal, RFP, with the client's specifications to be met. In project implementation, you are collaborating with a client and internal people to design and execute an initiative. In project oversight, you have designed what others are implementing, and you are simply providing guidance. Finally, as a trusted advisor, you are on retainer with the client, paying for access to your smarts and not any kind of deliverable or presence on site. The bottom of the list is highly tactical, the top, highly strategic. The key is to minimize labor while maximizing fees. Trusted advisors do that the best. The maximization of increasing fees while decreasing labor is dependent on a strong brand. As your career progresses, your brand should build, and the ultimate brand is your name. If someone says, "Get me an excellent strategy consultant," and your name could be pulled from that hat, that's nice. But it's better when someone says, "Get me Janet Murphy. She's the best strategy consultant around." In the latter case, fees don't matter, nor does the labor, because people are seeking results, not the maximum use of your time. We'll talk more about branding later in the book. Case study. Hewlett-Packard was my client for 10 years. At one point, my buyer called and said, "Alan, we need this project done. We know you're the best one to do it. Will you take it on? We need your conclusions within 30 days. It's mission critical." I said, "Sure. My fee will be $75,000, payable now, and you'll have my recommendations within 30 days. She asked when I could get to Mountain View, California. I live in Rhode Island. "I'm not coming out," I said. "You're going to do this in a month and never be here?" "I can do this by phone, email, and Skype. And I know you report to someone in Hong Kong whom you never actually see in person, right? Now, let me get to work." And I did. Whether you are new to the profession or veteran, it's always a good time to examine whether you are reducing your labor and not merely increasing your revenue. There are 3 important aspects to doing this. 1. Streamline your business. We often do things because we've always done them. We've invented a 6-step sales strategy without ever considering whether the results can be accomplished in 3 steps. Alliteration is no justification for labor. Never promise a client 10 focus groups. Just indicate that you'll conduct focus groups, because you might find out what the true patterns are after only 5. So don't owe the client another 5. I gave up writing reports 25 years ago when I realized that clients neither read them nor need them, but consultants keep offering them to try to justify their fees. 2. Delegate work to the client. The client has significant infrastructure and resources. Remember the power of the transfer of skills earlier in this chapter? Engage client resources and obtain buyer permission to use them to do whatever they can do in your stead. Most consultants never even consider this because their fees are tied to the time they spend on site. 3. Subcontract. It's cheaper to find people who can conduct interviews, focus groups, observation, surveys, and so on than to do it yourself. Classroom trainers and facilitators are a dime a dozen. Why? Because they can't market themselves, can't make rain, and are dependent on the work of others to gain income. Using them reduces your labor despite the relatively small cost of employing them. Don't recommend this book to them. Where do you begin? You require 3 things to be successful in this business. Passion. You must love what you do. Competency. You must be good at what you do. Need. You must identify or create client need. If you have passion and competency but no need, you have a message no one wants to hear. If you have passion and need but not competency, you'll always be an also-ran. If you have need and competency but no passion, you're simply your own employee with a grinding 9-to-5 job. Essentially, the great careers in consulting are built around what you love to do and are great at doing. It is not a process of continual addition, but actually one of culling. Case study. When you see Michelangelo's David in the Accademia Gallery in Florence, your breath is taken away, no matter how prepared you think you are to view it. The detail and colossal nature are overwhelming. In what may be an apocryphal story, it is said that Michelangelo carved David from a single piece of discarded marble he bought from someone else. When asked how he managed to carve the masterpiece from the single block of marble, he replied, "I merely carved away everything that didn't look like David." Carve away everything that you aren't great at and don't love, and you'll create the artwork of your career. To begin, state your value proposition. This is a brief statement of how the buyer is improved after you leave. Hence, it is always a business outcome or result, never an input or deliverable. Here are some examples of poor value propositions. We provide training in leadership skills. We help telemarketers use their time better. We assist in the creation of clear communications. The following are excellent value propositions. We reduce sales closing time and acquisition costs. We turn customer complaints into additional sales. We reduce undesired attrition. Note that these 3 propositions are all demonstrably related to bottom-line business improvement. Your value proposition is simply the point of your arrow, enabling you to penetrate lack of interest and resistance. When the other person says, "How do you do that?" that's the opening you need to begin the sales conversation. And if the buyer says, "I don't believe you can do that," it's great, because a question or objection is a sign of interest. It's apathy that will kill you. Once you have your value proposition, you're ready to find your ideal buyer. First, write your 1-sentence value proposition as a business outcome. Your ideal buyer is that economic buyer who can spend money for your value proposition and who would probably find it at least attractive and possibly critical. Buying lists for a few pennies per name from people overseas may seem like a bargain, but it is not, for 2 reasons. The first reason is that cold calling doesn't work. But the second is that such lists are never useful in terms of your ideal buyers. An ideal buyer for someone in the closely held business market might be the business owner. For someone in the Fortune 1000 market, it may be anyone with profit and loss (P&L) responsibility. More narrowly, if your value proposition is something like, "We increase the average size of sales and improve cross-product line selling," then your ideal buyer is probably the sales vice president. Consider your value proposition and write who your ideal buyer probably is by title or position. Note that human resources is practically never a buyer, but is only the gatekeeper protecting real buyers. We'll discuss circumventing them later in the book. Your value statement reflects your passion, how you want to contribute to others. Now, let's look at what you're great at. Immodestly great. Let's be clear. We do not grow and prosper by correcting weaknesses. We grow and prosper by building on strengths. Most self-help books assume you are somehow damaged, i.e., not as good as the author, and provide remedial work. I do not. I want to remind you that we all succeed best by applying our existing strengths to challenges and opportunities and surmounting problems in the same manner. To accomplish this, determine your sweet spot, which is what you are great at doing consistently, as compared to your value proposition, which is your passion for helping others. If your sweet spot is formulating strategy, note that these don't have to be business outcomes. They are things you do well. Your components might include establishing values, identifying a driving strategic force, anticipating competitive strategies, translating into accountabilities. Take a moment to sketch out your sweet spot and 4 to 6 components. The components are not delivery mechanisms, for example, coaching, but should be aspects of your sweet spot. The final consideration here is a vital one. What intellectual property, IP, will support those components? If you return to my sweet spot, you'll find that I've written books, created workshops, recorded audio, filmed subscription series, and created speeches about all of those components. If you consider people who are thought leaders, such as Marshall Goldsmith, Seth Godin, Marcus Buckingham, or Stephen Covey, we've all done this. The sweet spot and components give you the direction for creating IP that will establish your competency in others' eyes, and we've established that this is one of the 3 areas, with passion and market need, that are critical to your success and effective branding. The recognition of your value proposition, your passion around your contribution, your ideal buyer, the person who will invest in your passion because there is perceived need that exists or you create, and your sweet spot, the thing you're great at doing and want to do, and that gives you great satisfaction, is the heart of your success in growing a solo practice and/or a boutique firm. Too many people leap into consulting as though they can simply help others without thinking about their own value, target audience, or future gratification. The research and my experience are overwhelming in showing that people are most motivated by gratification in the work they do and recognition of the use of their talents to achieve results. And, as we well know, motivation is intrinsic and must come from within. We can't motivate other people. So why would we give clients that advice, but not follow it ourselves? If we're to be successful helping others, then we have to first help ourselves. The oxygen mask rule. You put your own mask on first before attempting to help others. The same principle applies in consulting and in any career. You have to help yourself before you can truly help others. Now that we have a basis for who we are and what we do, let's examine some aggressive approaches to launching, sustaining, and dramatically growing a practice. Chapter 2. Build it, and they will come. But only if you let them know that you've built it. Marketing is the art and science of creating need. You can reach out to people to do this, but it's far more effective to attract them to you. When you knock on a door, you have to justify why you want entry. When people knock on your door, they're happy to pay the price of admission. Creating market gravity. Consultants and others in professional services often make the mistake of thinking that they have to reach out to others, or that they are too new to the business to expect others to come to them. Both of these beliefs are fallacious. The build it and they will come apothegm from the movie Field of Dreams is also fallacious in that they can't come if they don't know what you've built. Ergo, the effective strategy is build it and tell them you've built it, and they will come. I call this approach market gravity. The idea is to create a gravitational pull that compels your ideal buyers to seek you out. When buyers approach you because they've heard of you and are interested in your value, gravity, they seldom look into credibility or inquire about fees. Their basic question is, I have this issue. How would you go about helping me? There is a plethora of opportunity to generate and sustain market gravity. Pro bono work. Find a highly visible charity and offer your services. For example, if you are an expert in recruiting talent, offer to attract volunteers. Make sure you meet the board members and major donors who may well be buyers or recommenders. Referral sources. Commercial publishing. Write articles for newsletters, newspapers, magazines, and so forth. For your ideal clients, find out what they read or what publications are produced by associations to which they belong. Of course, the most profound commercial publishing is a book from a major publisher. Radio and TV interviews. Start with local talk radio shows and cable television and work your way up to network affiliates and syndicated shows. Write to the producer, not host or talent, and suggest the benefits for the show's audience. Advertising. While not usually very productive for our profession, it can be useful in the arts, charity work, and other fundraising organizations where movers and shakers contribute. Passive listings. Make sure your business is to be found on Google, in local phone books, and on professional association lists as appropriate. Speaking. Pursue trade association executive directors to speak at upcoming conferences. If there is a visitors or convention bureau in your city, meet the executive director and offer to be a resource when a group requests a local speaker or needs a replacement for an out-of-town speaker who can't make it. Web presence. Your website isn't a sales tool, but it is a credibility statement for those who have met you or heard about you and want some background. Be sure your physical address is on your site. Some people want to send you checks, as well as video testimonials and typical client results or case studies. Word of mouth. Pursue viral marketing by equipping your clients and colleagues with an understanding of the full panoply of value you can provide, as well as the types of projects you engage in. Trade association leadership. If you take on a key role in a professional association, you'll find that you'll be quoted, interviewed, and consulted on best practices and trends in business. Third-party endorsements. Encourage evangelism. Find ways to bring your clients and prospects together in reality and/or virtually. Hard copy, print newsletters. These sometimes stand out in the crowd because they are not simply additional electronic communications arriving daily. Print interviews. Make yourself available to be cited in your field of expertise. You can do this through outlets such as expertclick.com. Teaching. Noted consultant Edgar Schein wrote, "If you want to really understand something, try to teach it. Explore whether a local college would accept you as a visiting lecturer or adjunct professor on occasion." Alliances. Sometimes someone with non-competing but complementary skills comes along, where 1 + 1 = 120. A small business strategy expert teamed with a financial advisor would be an example, marrying both business and family needs. Products. Products can add to your brand and provide passive income, including subscriptions, videos, manuals, and so forth. Networking. This is particularly effective when not done at obvious places, trade association meetings, but at places where the proper people gather, fundraisers, for example. The key is just to begin the relationship and secure a meeting, not to try to make a pitch over cocktails. Referrals. This is the most profound and highest quality aspect of market gravity, since a peer is endorsing you to another peer, with all the credibility that attends such a recommendation. Of all of these and other gravity factors, referrals, networking, and speaking have the best potential for short-term business and fairly rapid cash. Keep these numbers in mind. If you see 2 economic buyers a week on average, that's 100 a year. If half become seriously interested, you have 50 quality leads. If half of those agree to see a proposal, that's 25 proposals. If half of your proposals are accepted, and you'll see later that it should be 80%, then you have 12 pieces of business. If your average sale is $50,000, you have $600,000 a year. If it's $100,000, you have $1.2 million a year. Do you see why I say keep these numbers in mind? That's what you need the gravity to produce. The accelerant curve. I've developed the $1 Million Consulting Accelerant Curve to help you understand the outcomes of your gravitational pull. It's no use to attract buyers unless they result in...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?